Las Vegas, January 1997. Colonel Tom Parker Tom Hanks implodes in his home from a clear stroke. He is raced to the clinic. As he lays biting the dust in a clinic bed, media sources recall him as a liar, a cheat, and an extortionist. Parker himself starts to describe. He recognizes that while many will paint him as the reprobate, he sees himself as the one who gave the world the Lord of Rock and Roll, Elvis Aaron Presley Austin Stewart. In a flashback to Las Vegas in the 1970s, at the Global Inn, Elvis is scarcely ready to remain, with his escort dunking his head into super cold water to get him on his feet. Parker appears and pronounces that mainly, Elvis have the option to get up on that stage. Regardless of the mayhem, Elvis figures out how to get up and play out an American set of 3 to a stunned group. While Parker proceeds with his story, he is seen strolling alone through an unfilled club. Similar media sources revealing Parker's death likewise fault him for what befell Elvis, yet he solidly contends against those cases. Parker starts portraying his story during the 1950s, where he, an undocumented Dutch migrant, worked at a festival for country western vocalist Hank Snow David Wenham. Hank's child Jimmy Rogers Cody Smith McPhee appears with a record that has a nation sort of sound to it, while the others in the group appear to like the tune. Hank and Parker don't think the music is attractive since it seems like music played by African American people. Jimmy illuminates them that the tune is being sung by a white man, and Parker out of nowhere becomes intrigued by Parker's record. He initially experienced Elvis at a melodic presentation at one of Hank's shows for a radio exhibition, where the young fellow was anxious about getting in front of an audience. He was supported by his mom Gladys Helen Thompson to get up there, saying that somebody named Jesse is watching them. Parker makes sense of our trail that Jesse was Elvis' twin sibling who passed on in labor. Through his record, it is shown that Elvis' dad Vernon Richard Roxborough was detained because of his obscure dealings, and Elvis Wu LD become mixed up in comics and imagine he would do what he could to free his dad. His number one legend was Shazam, back when he was as yet known as Commander Wonder. As a youngster, Elvis, here played by Chaden J. He became friends with dark youngsters and ended up charmed by profound dark music. As a grown-up in the mid-1950s, Elvis worked at Sun Records to make music and backing his loved ones. At the presentation, everybody prepares to watch Elvis go up and show what he has. While he is at first ridiculed by the group, he quickly charms the women in the group with his voice and his rotating hips. While the female group is stunned by Elvis, the more seasoned swarm is put off and considers him disgusting. Elvis before long joins Hank's melodic visit across the South, with Parker following him trying to prevail upon him. Elvis keeps on drawing swarms of female admirers, however Hank sees him as being unseemly for the group he needs to draw in. At a fair, Parker tracks down Elvis in a place of mirrors and converses with him on the Ferris wheel. He advises Elvis that Hank needs to dispose of him, yet Parker guarantees Elvis he can take him higher than ever. Elvis, driven by his craving to help his family, consents to work with Parker. The two even persuade Gladys and Vernon to join, with Vernon being designated to the administration position of the recently established Presley Ventures. While Gladys is unsure about Elvis wandering into another vocation with music, he persuades her that he can make a big deal about himself. Prior to becoming famous in music, Elvis fills in as a transporter. Yet he is as yet flabbergasted by dark entertainers on Beale Road in Memphis like B.B. Lord, Calvin Harrison Jr., and enormous Mom Thornton Shonka Decorate the last option who sings the melody Dog Canine, which Elvis enjoys the sound of. His bosses at Sun Records additionally urge Elvis to strike out all alone. Elvis' star starts to ascend as his notoriety takes off, and with Parker's assistance, he can move his folks to a chateau, Graceland, which is situated close to Memphis. Parker additionally creates Elvis stock, including pins that say, "I can't stand Elvis S." Even disdain can make them some cash. In any case, in spite of his prosperity, the sexual idea of Elvis dance moves and the way that he enamors the female crowd puts a worry on guardians and shows authorities, who name him Elvis the Pelvis. Congressperson James Eastland Nicholas Ringer by and by assemblies against Elvis and Parker, requesting that he get it together or go to prison. Elvis is made to wear more fitting dress contrasted with what a steward wears, and his music is restrained, which disheartens his fans and enrages Elvis for being kept down. This likewise causes a strain among Elvis and Gladys. the last option who has fallen into liquor addiction. He drives down to Beale Road and spends time with B.B. Lord and other dark people, where they observe Little Richard Alton Bricklayer perform. Elvis and B.B. talk outside, where B.B. expresses that there are such a large number of individuals benefiting off of Elvis to attempt to place him in prison for how he performs. So he urges him to do anything he desires to do. Elvis is headed to a show, where he is requested to but rather squirm a finger, or he will be captured. As Elvis gets in front of an audience, he recalls B.B.'s words and addresses the crowd, saying no one will change him, and the group goes wild. He starts to perform Inconvenience, and the women in the crowd go off the deep end as he squirms his hips. Parker is frightened, and he arranges security to pull Elvis off stage, where he is captured. In 1958, Elvis is before long undermined with going to prison for profanity, however he is given the choice to serve abroad in West Germany. Gladys fears for her child's security, and she in the long run passes on. At her memorial service, journalists attempt to get articulations from Elvis, yet both he and Vernon are excessively sorrowful to confront anyone, and Elvis is left sitting in his mom's storage room, wailing against her garments. Parker steps in and persuades him to step outside for Gladys, saying that all that she forfeited for her child will be in vain. By 1959, Elvis is serving in West Germany, where he meets Priscilla Wagner, Olivia de Jonge, the adolescent little girl of a military pilot. Others in the space like to get a brief look at Elvis, however he appreciates investing his confidential energy with Priscilla, as he falls head over heels for her. In the 1960s, Elvis gets back in the saddle to the US by showing up as an entertainer in films in Hollywood, California, starting with Affection Me Delicate. Parker takes note of that individuals just need to watch Elvis sing. So he is highlighted as a vocalist in additional movies. Elvis and Priscilla get hitched in 1967, and they have a little girl, Lisa Marie. Elvis later fosters his own company, the Memphis Mafia, which incorporates Priscilla, his companion Jerry Schilling, Luke Bracey, and a few others. During his experience out and about, Elvis finds out about the death of Dr. Martin Luther Ruller Jr. In April 1968, while Parker lets him know it doesn't have anything to do with them, Elvis accepts it closely relates to them. Elvis is acquainted with Steve Cover, Dacre Montgomery, by Jerry, with Steve needing to help Elvis out with his work. Parker books Elvis for a Christmas Extraordinary on NBC, where the makers believe that he should do a spotless show and sing Here Comes Street Nick. All things considered, Elvis performs a large number of his greatest hits, similar to Catastrophe Lodging and Prison Rock. Eventually, throughout a break, Elvis and company find out about the death of Robert Kennedy, which likewise profoundly scares Elvis. Parker splits it up and orders Elvis to do a Christmas melody, since the makers won't pay him in any case, and Parker will drop Elvis. The following evening of the show, Elvis performs On the Off Chance That I Can Dream as a Descent tune, and it turns into another success. Somewhat later in 1970, Parker then carries Elvis to Las Vegas at the Worldwide Inn, where the proprietors need to have Elvis there as an extremely durable title entertainer. Subsequent to scoring an immense installment for Elvis, Parker is then informed that as long as Elvis performs at the Worldwide, Parker will have his obligations cleaned off and have an unending credit extension for betting in the club. In any case, Elvis needs to begin voyaging and performing universally, which Parker will not permit since he is undocumented, which was raised prior when he was faced by Congressperson Eastland, who made a record verification on Parker. During his residency at the lodging, Priscilla looks as Elvis kisses different ladies. Parker additionally arranges more tight security because of Elvis getting passing dangers, as well as frenzied fans attempting to rush him in front of an audience. In 1973, Elvis endeavors to cut attaches with Parker by terminating him as his chief, just to be sued by him later on. Vernon lets Elvis know that he owes more than $8 million to Parker and the record name for his various and sumptuous costs. Elvis indignantly goes up against Parker, however must choose the option to keep him on. The pressure drives Elvis to a pill habit and liquor abuse, and he becomes progressively distrustful. During one of his shows, he openly calls Parker out as somebody who is keeping him confined up there, and he strolls off stage after the drapery drops. In 1974, Priscilla winds up separating from Elvis because of his compulsion, as well as him not being there for Lisa Marie. By the mid-1970s, Elvis is age 40, and he has begun putting on weight. His well-being is additionally in serious decay. He and Parker seldom see each other, starting here ahead as Elvis visits occupy the greater part of his time. Elvis is on an air terminal run, with Priscilla and Lisa Marie before he needs to leave them again to go out on visit. Priscilla requests that he go to a unique center that she caught wind of for his physician-endorsed illicit drug habits, essentially for Lisa Marie. However, Elvis says he can't because of his visiting and rich burning through of cash. Priscilla mournfully leaves him once and for all before he gets onto his plane. In August 1977, Elvis passes on at 42 years old from a coronary failure at his Graceland home. Fans from one side of the planet to the other honor him, and an assertion is given by President Jimmy Carter to memorialize him. Parker's last portrayal expresses that he doesn't think it was simply the pills or liquor, or even that killed Elvis, but instead, it was the adoration that Elvis wanted from his fans. He additionally noticed that he actually got to see Elvis perform one final time before his demise. Elvis is shown seeming fat and broken down, however he actually figures out how to bell out Unchained tune to a revering swarm. Back in 1997, the matured Parker takes his last breath and discreetly dies. The consummation text expresses that Colonel Tom Parker's eagerness and maltreatment of Elvis was spread the word about in a progression of claims during the 1980s after Elvis' passing. Despite the fact that he attempted to shield himself, Parker ended up spending his last a long time in shame, betting endlessly and pouring what little survived from his fortune into Vegas gambling machines. In the interim, Elvis Presley is as yet the most noteworthy selling solo craftsman ever, and his impact and heritage on music proceeds right up to the present day.